Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be looking at technology and its relationship to our mindfulness practice, as well as how to make choices around that technology in order to support not only our meditation practice, but our daily lives in general. This is a channel where you can learn the ins and outs of mindfulness practice, get tips and tricks on meditation, and regardless of your level, where you can meditate with me. So thanks again for joining. I'm really excited to be diving into this topic today because I think in some ways it represents what's to come down the line for the channel. I do think I'm going to run out of ideas eventually on videos to make, and so I'm excited to kind of tie in the topic of meditation practice with current events and what's happening in our day-to-day. And one of those ways is to look at what's out in the media right now, and what are the sort of hot topics. And a few weeks ago, I saw a really great film called The Social Dilemma. And the film dives into, really, I think at its heart, machine learning, and how, especially through our social media platforms, that the current technologies are designed to extract as much as possible of our attention and our focus for as many hours of the day as possible, every single day, all the time. And also kind of building on that, the film also discusses how what's the most attention grabbing a lot of the times are very polarizing political views, news stories, social movements, and whether it's in vastly in support or vastly against any given topic, that there's this increasingly growing divide between populations of specific nations and really around ideologies around the world, and that's having a very dire effect on the social fabric of our world. So for so many reasons, I think that it's a great movie to watch. I would really recommend it. And although the political and the social aspects and everything else of the film are really highly important, and I don't at all discourage people from diving into that, since we're focused on the practice of mindfulness and meditation here, that's where we're going to be really looking at today. So basically, in a sentence, what I really have to say is that the choices that you want to make around technology are really your choices, and that the path of meditation and the path you take is really a really unique and individual one. So I want to make sure that that's something that everyone is following and everyone is clear on in terms of my perspective and my support for that. That said, I think there are a few key things from the film that should help, I think, to help us help guide our choices around our thinking, around how are we using our smartphones, how are we using our computers, and how are we using the social media platforms. And just one more anecdote I'll take from the film is that the level of sophistication of not only the amounts of data that these platforms are able to extract from us through our devices, but also the computing power that they have to process that data and really to hone in on just the most minute of preferences that we might have, preferences or tendencies we might not even know exist. That this level of power is really staggering, and we might be tempted to think, oh, I can make my own choices, or I can make my own decisions around this stuff, and ultimately the buck stops with you. So it really is up to you. But the odds are very, very much stacked, and very much stacked against us in a lot of ways. So I just wanted to share a few of my insights and my tips and my practical kind of choices that I've made around technology. So the first is that I really try to, and especially since seeing the film, but just in general, I try to stay away from my phone as much as possible, especially if I'm doing focused work. And if I'll be really honest, that's really the only time I'm the least bit successful with that. My phone does tend to be on me all the time, but increasingly I'm trying to, that if I'm writing emails, if I'm doing research, if I'm doing any kind of focused project that I don't truly need my phone with me for, that I try to put it in another room, and really just get it away from me, because it's something that is constantly pulling our attention, and it's got all kinds of sort of like juicy morsels in it. It's like you might pick up, and this this is something that maybe you guys can relate to, but I pick up my phone to check a text message, but then I see a notification from Instagram, and then, oh, I have a new email, and then, oh, what's happening on this other app or something. And I'm not sure the numbers, but maybe 6 or 7 out of 10 times, what I grab my phone for is, by the time I put it down, I didn't accomplish that first sort of task, or that first desire. I picked it up to look at something, and then 10 minutes later I put it down. I'm like, oh, I didn't even do the thing that I grabbed my phone for. So so that's number one. I tried to keep my phone, trying to keep my phone off of my person. Number two is, and I sort of already covered this, but to put it in a different room. And that is something that I found, it might seem silly, but really that physical distancing is really helpful, and including when I sleep. There have been a lot of studies that you sleep better without looking at your phone for the last few hours of your day, and also even if the phone is in the same room with you, that does have an effect on your sleep. So that's something, another thing you might want to consider or look into. And a third thing, and this is something I really got mostly from the film, is to turn off all notifications that are not truly essential. And again, I think that has to do with that dynamic I spoke about earlier of, you pick up your phone for one thing, but then there's 7 other directions you can go as soon as you touch the screen. So I've really found that's very useful, and really just kind of silencing the noise. There's so much going on in our devices at all times, and again, this is by design. This is to try and really hook your attention at every moment as much as possible. And I'd say the last thing I'll say is, and it's sort of personal to this channel and to you guys that are watching, is that especially if you're watching YouTube, or you're watching these videos on your phone, I really highly recommend putting it on there's a mode, at least on Apple's phones, called Do Not Disturb, so that any notification you get while you're watching a video or whatever activity you're doing, they won't pop up on the screen. So, especially if you're trying to do a meditation with me, or, learn about some new concept, I think that, if you have constant banners ticking down, and even if you swipe up on them and you don't look at them, for the time being, that still kind of drags your attention a bit away. And so that's something that I really recommend. And, it's not so much about, I don't know, aggrandizing the channel, but it's just really to help you focus your attention and on whatever you're doing. So those are just some tips that I've found useful. I really recommend you considering and looking into, and really at the heart, that once we're dedicated to a practice of mindfulness, and if you decide that it's something that you want to orientate your life around, that we have to start thinking about mindfulness in all the settings of our life, and that this is just a really natural way for us to start doing that, as technology is, number one, has such a big effect on our attention and our ability to keep our attention, but also since it's so present, I think it's a great way to start, and a way to support you and us in our mindfulness practice. So those are a few tips. I'm curious what you think. Have you found any good tips for yourself that you'd like to share? Because I could definitely use them, and I would really appreciate that, and I'm sure the other viewers would as well. And if you haven't heard of some of these, or if you haven't considered some of these, go ahead and give it a shot. I definitely recommend committing to something, maybe if it's just for 5 days or a week, and really trying, because sometimes if we just say, oh yeah, I'll think about it, it ends up just getting left by the wayside. And when we can have a discipline or a goal of like, okay, I'm not gonna do this, or I'm gonna do this for the next week, then we can really gauge ourselves when, when it's challenging, or when we're tempted, or even just notice how much we have a habit that we didn't notice before that. So that said, we'll just meditate, maybe just for 1 minute today. I did speak quite a bit, so just finding your posture, your upright posture. Allowing yourself to sink in to your body, to relax your muscles. And just following your breath in and out. Just breathing in and breathing out. So thank you for listening. Thank you for meditating with me. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would really appreciate it if you could. If you feel like sharing it with friends, liking and commenting, that's also great. And thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.